Thank you to our Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Ahomatak yoyase, etichimanonho negwish. In the Lakota language, this is a very common prayer. And what it means is, to all of my relations, I pray that these things be so. When I was 18 years old, I was offered the opportunity to attend a Native American purification ritual known as Sweat Lodge. In Sweat Lodge, you come upon the grounds there where they do their sweat, and there's a large fire, a sacred fire, a fire that has been lit earlier that day to burn wood over rocks. There's two kinds of rocks you use for Sweat Lodge. There's either lava rock, rocks made from petrified lava, or soapstone, because these are the only two kinds of rocks that you can heat up and they won't blow up. There's a lot of water in many rocks, and they will blow up if you heat them for too long. The purpose for heating these rocks is to bring them into the lodge. The lodge itself is made of willow branches that have been dug into the ground, 16 willow branches, and then bent into like a dome shape, and that is covered up with tarps so that it can be airtight, almost airtight and completely pitch black. To the west, to the east, where the sun comes up, is where the door for the Sweat Lodge faces, facing the sacred fire. The path to that Sweat Lodge is often called the umbilical cord, because the Sweat Lodge itself is a representation of the womb of our Mother, the Earth. When you come into the Sweat Lodge, it's sort of very well organized. All the people that are going to be attending the lodge will stand in line, and as you come in, you get down on your hands and knees, and you place your forehead to your Mother, the Earth, and you say those words, Ahomatak yoyase, etichimanonho negwish. You look to the Sweat Lodge leader, often called a sun dancer, and you ask him permission to enter the Sweat Lodge, because, especially for men, it is good to always remember, you never enter a woman without permission. This is a sacred teaching. Everyone gathers into the Sweat Lodge. Depending on the size of your Sweat Lodge, you could have several people in there. This one was roughly the same size as this area here. And we'd have about 50 Native American people in this small area, and you're really close. The reason for this being, you got to get close to your brothers. And if you're all going to be coming out of the same womb, you're certainly brothers. Inside this Sweat Lodge is a hole, about 3 feet in diameter and about 1 foot deep. And as the ceremony begins, the fire tenders, 3 very important people in this whole process, who've been tending to the fire and the rocks, who we call grandfathers, bring them in by pitchforks, one by one. And the rock tender will take them with antlers and place them into the middle of the fire, in the middle of the pit, as we build up into a large pile of just glowing red hot rocks. And while this is happening, we sing a prayer. This prayer is a welcoming song to the grandfathers and to all the good spirits that could come and help answer our prayers. Once we have the right proportion of rocks for that particular round, we close up the lodge, and the uncle, as we like to call our Native American spiritual leaders, much like your Easter fathers, will start dumping water onto the rocks as we pray. Now, prayers are typically in Native American languages, and thanks to the experiences I had during those times, I actually know 33 different dialects of Native American song, and including Islander songs, which are really pretty. I got to sweat with some Tongan brothers, and that was a lot of fun. So, it gets hot. Okay? You will not believe how hot it gets. And the funny thing is, and I know this to be true because I've spoke to every brother about this at one point or another, that first sweat is always the hottest. And when I asked Uncle Jimmy, my Native American spiritual advisor, why this was, he said, because that's the first one you need to really get all the stuff out. After you've done it the first time, it doesn't seem so hard because you've already sweat out all the stuff prior to that. So it's very intense. And you sit and you pray. In the Native American way, it's said that our words are our prayers. So Uncle Jimmy often wouldn't say, go ahead and pray, guys. He would say, do your talking, as he led us in song. We bring rattles, drums, clapper sticks, which is a California native sort of drum where you split willow or Brent bamboo and you clap it. Make a clap, 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 clap sound. And during all this, you're praying for everything you can. There's usually 4 rounds, and 4 is a sacred number amongst the Native Americans because 4 directions and the 4 races of the earth: the white, the yellow, the black, and the red. Lost my train of thought. Each round represents a different area of prayer. The first round is called the selfish round because it's the only round you're allowed to pray for yourself. The second round is the women's round. We would pray for all the women, the mothers, the grandmothers, the sisters, our daughters. The third round is for all of everybody else, basically. And the fourth round is for the ones that have passed, the burial ones. And when you come out of there, everybody, doesn't matter where you're from, we all get around the sacred fire afterward, and we embrace as we come out. And we pray one last song. It was the most intense experience of my life, and I did it once a week for 7 years.
Wow.
I absolutely love Native American Sweat Lodge. Anybody who's interested in coming out to one of these things, do so if you get the opportunity, because I guarantee you it will be one of the most spiritual and beautiful experiences of your life. Ohomatak Yase, Itishman Wish, the way out.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Toastmasters, and guests, and especially Jonathan this morning. Your speech on sweat was extremely interesting. Although I've heard about these things, I've not heard about the depth that they go through. I found some very interesting things about your speech. For example, no notes. You got up here, you faced your audience, you had good eye contact, nice pace, not too fast, not too slow. I think this is a subject that many of us may not know that much about. So that you were informative. I thought you were extremely knowledgeable about your topic, and you explained that in your introduction about yourself. What was the support material appropriate? And I thought, yes, but I didn't see any support material outside of your experience. And this speech calls for various sources, so I didn't see that. Although you have a plethora of experience, I think that maybe you could have included another source in that particular area. How clear was the speech? You were very clear in your explanation. I liked your description when you got up here. You explained it in detail. I hope I'll never have to go through one. You did some hand clutching. I think that's from nerves. I think you relaxed after a little while. I liked your vivid descriptions. I liked some of the terms that you use. Clapper sticks. I thought that was very interesting. Maybe we could use some here. You gave some good demonstrations about what the Sweat Lodge. It wasn't clear to me the purpose of having all those people in there, because you said you sweat it all out, and I'm thinking, sweat what out? And I think you need to clarify to your audience what it is that we're sweating something out, what it is that we're sweating out. What is the purpose of the Sweat Lodge? I didn't get that particular part. Did the speaker take advantage of the body language? And you certainly did. You certainly did that. And I liked your opening and your closing, because your closing in particular, quoting that wonderful phrase that I can't quote right now, brought it all together, because you opened with it and you closed with it, which means you tied your speech together. And I think you did an extremely well done job. What would I suggest you do differently? Maybe explain what we're sweating out, the purpose of so many people. Be a little more clear in your purpose, and what is the end result that you're hoping to achieve here. And once you've done that, I think, other than that, you did an outstanding job. You have some fillers, I'll give that to you in the counters, of course. Mr. Chief Evaluator.